So we're going to need XAMPP here, and we're going to need to install Java if you haven't already. Now, given that we had a prereq of Java programming, I assume you have it all installed, but it's okay if you don't right now. You can go download the latest version of the OpenJDK from openjdk.java.net. You'll download it, unzip it. Now, what that means, if we're not installing the Oracle version, we need to do a little bit of changing here. So we're going to use the Tomcat server this time here. So we go to config and browse. There's a couple things we need to change here to tell Tomcat where it needs to go and find the Java installation. So there's a file in here called catalina_start.bat. Bat files are Windows batch files. It's just a bunch of commands that you could type manually. You put them together in a file and it runs them all together. So you're going to right click and edit that one. Or, yes. Oh my goodness. Wow. Okay, I want more options. I want edit. Windows 11 is weird. I'm going to edit this one here. And there's going to be a bunch of stuff in here before it says seems fine, Java home thing. So what we need to do is we need to go and set where our OpenJDK is. And I think actually I've changed mine. I think I'm on version 17 now. I think I went and cleaned some of that up. Let me double check. So if you follow along with the virtual machines, you might have a folder like OpenDev on your C drive. Yep, so I have version 17 here. So I need to change the path here to JDK-17.0.1 here. And we should be in good shape. So it's just telling where to go find the Java installation. There's a bunch of other stuff in here that is like looking for registry keys and other things that the official Oracle install will do that we just don't do. If you want to go install it, it's perfectly fine. It'll work okay. But I prefer the OpenDev, the OpenJDK, just because I think it was kind of weird that Oracle would go and license something that had been open source and free to use forever. And I think that's just sort of, I don't know, against the idea of it. Ooh, got a couple coffee grounds on that one. Chunky. I don't think chunky is ever what you want your coffee to be. Well, maybe it's stronger that way. Maybe it is. Okay, so we're going to set it up so that we told it where the Java home is. That's the Catalina start in, oops, your XAMPP folder. Let me go back. Yep, just putting well, I'm telling the Catalina start batch file where Java is. So that's Catalina start. We're going to edit that one and take out all the junk that's above it where it tries to automatically find it. Because if you don't do the Oracle installer, you don't have any of those registry keys, it can't find anything. So before you get to seems fine, we're going to go update and say, hey, here's where the Java home is. So I can copy that. I can throw that in the Discord later. Or I guess I can do that now. It's no big deal. That's the Catalina start line. And again, whatever version you have is fine. I had 16 early. If you have 16, 16 will still work, but I had actually cleared 16 out of the way here. So let me see if I can put that on the other screen. Maybe. Come on, Discord. Work with me here. It's not even loaded yet. Nope. Nope. Come on. I drag it up here. Hasn't loaded enough for me to drag it yet. There it goes. All right, one of those shortcut keys will get it, and I can go post that here in the Discord. So it's just setting the home for these here. So that's the entire content of the file. It's not very interesting here. So I'll post the whole thing here. It's for Catalina start inside of your XAMPP Tomcat directory. I'll put that in our class channel here. XAMPP Tomcat. Catalina start that. All right, and I pasted in the content. So it's just a couple lines. Then what we're going to do, I should have been waiting on NetBeans for this. We'll fire up NetBeans. And we'll let it sit and think for a little while here. See what we can get. So then we need to go tell NetBeans where Tomcat is. Tomcat just a web server. So we were using previously the Apache web server. Tomcat's a different web server, and we're going to use Tomcat to do all of our Java development stuff. So it works essentially the same way, just works with a different technology. And we will be able to connect Tomcat to our MySQL database in a couple weeks. We'll get to that one as we go. All right, so we'll get to databases in 1, 2, 3 more weeks. We'll get there. Maybe we can get there. Thinking real hard about it. Get a minute to get loaded here. My laptop is, I went to check to see because I thought it was kind of old. It's 3 years and a month and a half now old, and it's just not holding up as well as I would hope. It's getting there. We'll see. All right, yeah, cool. Got that posted. There we go. We got NetBeans here. So the weird thing about XAMPP is the start button for Tomcat doesn't like to cooperate. It's the weirdest thing. There's actually another Catalina start file in the XAMPP directory that you can go and edit if you want to. I don't have any luck with this one. Like, it still won't start for me. But we don't really need it here anyway because NetBeans will start it for us. So this is kind of what some of that other stuff looks like here. Yeah, this is probably what was in your file before, where you had this weird trying to find these sorts of things, looking in your registry. And we don't have any of that in the registry, so we just don't need to bother with that. Right, we'll just go and do it here. Yeah, this just has all sorts of weird errors and things. So messing with this one, not usually all that useful here. So we just took like everything out and just started, told it where Catalina home was, told it where the Java home was, and we were all set. Yep. So even in XAMPP, the start button is not going to work very well, and that's okay. You don't need to worry about that. But in NetBeans now, we're going to make this work. So NetBeans has this couple tabs. We've been working with the project view, usually, maybe files, but it has a services tab. And in the services tab, so you don't want to open the command prompt. You want to right-click on it and say edit. So right-click, and you want to edit the file, don't open it. So, or maybe show more options and then edit if you're on Windows 11 now. So edit will open up the file here like in Notepad, and then you can edit it from there. So we want to go to our servers here in the services section, and we're going to add the Tomcat server here. So it looks like I have one here. Let's go ahead and delete it, and I can go re-add it. I'm going to remove it here because you probably don't have that already set up, and that's okay. So in servers then, we probably don't have any there. We're going to right-click and say add server. And then we're going to go point it at our Tomcat server, and then it knows how to go start it itself. So you get a couple ones in the list. We're going to pick Apache Tomcat server. And we'll go next. Now it needs the location. So where do we go find this one? So we're going to hit browse. And we're going to go find the CXAMPP Tomcat folder. So CXAMPP. And then the Tomcat folder inside of here. We say, okay, open, great. Then we need to give it a username here. This is to be a manager. It does some really cool stuff where it automatically can deploy our applications is really nice. So I'm just a fan of like test and test. Doesn't really matter much. You leave the box, check user if it doesn't, check user if it does not exist. If it doesn't exist. I don't know, apparently contractions are weird. And then we say finish. And it's going to go add a connection here to our Tomcat server. that we can use. Now, it's not going to look like a whole lot. There's not a lot of info here, but we could go, properties and these sort of things. But we will be able to start it when we start our Java projects, which is cool. So it will go and start up your server. It, by default, wants to run on port 8080, is where Tomcat servers run. So port 8080 is what we need to put in our URLs, or what it'll automatically generate for us in our URLs. Unlike our PHP server, which ran on port 80, or I had to change mine to 5080. And then, hey, it knows what JDK it's using, which is really cool, because we have the JDK set up in NetBeans. And all that should be pretty good here. So then what we do when we start a new project this time, now we're going to pick a Java web project here, web application. So a Java web project here. And where do we want to put it? We want to put it in our 2454 folder. Enter 2022. We'll just call this one Hello World. Right. It knows it's Apache Tomcat. That's the server here. We know we're using Java EE7. Great. The context path here is /hello world. So we'll go to localhost :8080 /hello world is where it's going to take us to our project. We don't need to use any of the frameworks. Again, those are super cool things. Spring is awesome, but we're not going to get into the frameworks. We figure if you know how it actually works, then you can use the frameworks and take advantage of that sort of stuff, and it should work out pretty well for you. We'll go finish. Okay, and then back in the project view, we should see a familiar looking project, but now this is one done in Java. Why is it down here? That's the wrong place for that. I want this up here. Don't know why it's so confused. There we go, variables, that's fine. So my Hello World project, if I open this one up, there's a web pages section, I have an index page, and then there's a source packages with nothing in it. So the only thing I have right now is an index.html page with a couple tools. Nothing really in here. Then there's some additional files and things here. There's a content.xml. This one's not very interesting right now because it's just a starter package. It just says, hey, here's the context path. /hello world should take us to our index page. Then we can get rid of this template stuff. So this is just a plain HTML file. Nothing interesting yet. But we should be able to hit run. And on run now, it should go and start our Apache Tomcat server. Let's see. So in output here, yep. So we see there's a couple different tabs now. This is the Apache Tomcat server saying, okay, it's trying to start up here. Here's where Catalina is. Here's your Java home. It's trying to start, and you should get some messages in here. This is all the logging happening as it starts. It's thinking real hard about it. And eventually it should start. Yep, test and test should be okay. And we get localhost :8080 is the port number, right? /hello world was that context we said. So hello world is this project. We get our, and we could even put in the index.html page here if you want to, but index pages load by default. Remember, indexes are your default page. So just /hello world will take us to our hello world page, so that we know Tomcat's up and running. So it says it started. It puts all of this into this configuration here, which is cool, automatically for us. So there's a bunch of stuff that happens behind the scenes. Where's our, one of ours is here. So all the stuff in Tomcat goes into different locations. So generally this web apps location here. And now if you check XAMPP, it should say that it's running. So XAMPP realizes that it's running, but start doesn't usually work well for it because it's weird like that. But we can click on admin here. We'll launch the admin page. So just your root localhost 8080, we can see if Tomcat's up and running. Should actually give you all sorts of really cool stuff here. The base install is really nice. It has all sorts of examples too, which is really fun. And things all about Tomcat and fun stuff here. So if you go to any of these examples, you can take a look at some servlet examples. We're going to be doing servlets. So you can see this is the examples page / servlets is where we're going here. You can either run the code or look at the source code. So you can execute the hello world example. This is the hello world code, or we can go then and like look at the actual code here. So this is the servlet code that runs the example. If we go look at the hello world example, it's kind of fun. Request info is not all that interesting. Request parameters is slightly more interesting. So we can pass some parameters like Eric and Chernesky. And this is all just the example code here. We go submit. And now we can see it was passed some parameters. So if I open up my DevTools here with F12, maybe I open the DevTools with F12, there it goes. And we do that one more time and do Eric and Chernesky. It must be posting because there's nothing in the GET request here. So if we want to check, we can see we sent in our form data, we sent first name and last name, and we get the first name and last name back out. So you can look at the actual code of it here and see what it's doing. It's kind of fun, like request get parameter. So we'll get to this in just a little bit here, but we want to make sure that it's up and running and it's functional. We can get Tomcat going. We get our main page. Now, this is just HTML pages. As you know, static HTML pages are kind of boring, right? There's not actually a whole lot of interesting stuff happening here, right? So what we want to do is we want to go and add our servlet. So what happens is with Tomcat, right, this idea of a servlet is essentially what is responding to the request. So when we did PHP, the Apache server, the Apache server would get the request and then go to the PHP page and run the PHP code. With Java, what we can do, we can go to either directly HTML pages, we can go to servlets, which is straight Java code, or we can go to JSP or Java server pages. So we're not going to get to the server pages until next week. So we're going to start with servlets. That's the basic one. So I'm going to go to my packages here. I'm going to right click and say I want a new servlet. Now we want to make sure we put it in a package. You don't want to use the default package here, so we'll just call this the Hello World package, and we'll call this one Hello World. Okay, so we have to give it a package name, we give it the class name. Now this is super important, this step here. We want to register the servlet with the application. So it's going to add this information to the web XML file. So this web XML is really cool. So it says, hey, if you go to /hello world, run the hello world servlet. This part's super important here because you can do all this stuff by hand, but it's a big pain to have to do that. There's a hello world.java file, which is cool. And now there's a web XML file in the web INF. This is where the magic happens. And this is what you can do by hand if you really want to. So it says, hey, there's a servlet named hello world. And the servlet mapping says, okay, the servlet name is hello world. This servlet name matches this servlet name here. Then we say, okay, this URL /hello world goes to this servlet by this name, and it will run the hello world.hello world class. Right? Hello world is the package. Hello world capital is the class file that gets compiled, right, when we compile our Java code. So that's how we get the mappings between URLs and servlets. Again, I'm more of a fan when it does it automatically here. So you can see any of this stuff. I don't care about any of the comments here. But what happens here is there are two methods that by default are hidden here. You have a do get. So when you send a get request to the servlet, it runs the do get method. The do get method says, hey, call the process request method. Sure. The do post method runs when you do a post to the server. So you can actually run different functions or different methods based on get and post. Remember in PHP land, we just responded, right? We could go look in the post request or the get request parameters, but in Java land, we can actually do completely different things if we want to, which is cool because a lot of times when you post something, again, you're doing some sort of change operation that you want to have happen one time, but a get is either a lookup or a non-changing, non-destructive, or doesn't make any changes. So like you can run it over and over and over again. So both of them to say run the process request function or method. So the process request one says, hey, I'm going to take the response and get a writer. Right? So you send a request, an HTTP servlet request, and it will give you back an HTTP servlet response. What we do in servlets is really stinking ugly. We take this response and we literally write HTML print lines. So we're essentially doing print lines, but we're doing it not to system.out.println, we're doing it to the print writer out here, which is the response writer. So we're saying one line at a time, please spit out this HTML code. But you can also now, because this is Java code, you can do cool things like run Java methods. Whatever this request.getContext path is will run, and we're just concatenating it in here inside of the H1 block. So not quite as nice as PHP, where it's like HTML with embedded PHP. This is Java with embedded HTML. So when we get to the Java server pages, the JSP, then we'll flip back to that PHP style where it's HTML with embedded Java, or PHP, HTML with embedded PHP. But servlets are pure Java class code, and they just out print line all the HTML you want to spit out there, which is really cool, though. They're super powerful because it's complete, full Java code. You can do anything you want to do in Java, you can do in a servlet. Right? So we can write classes, we can have all sorts of custom things happening here, which is really fun. So if you took me for any of the previous courses, right, any of the classes that we wrote, we were very particular and very specific and said classes should have nothing to do with system out print line and nothing to do with the scanner keyboard asking for input. Because if that class that we wrote was really cool and nice and functional, we could essentially just go import it into a web package, and we could use that class functionality with all the logic complete, ready to go, out of the box. Nothing needs to change. We just go ask for properties or whatever we're doing and then sending them out in the servlets. They're really fun. So anyway, let's give it a try. Let's hit run here. And it should go launch out here in a second. Now the Tomcat server's already started. So if you go look at the Tomcat log, where was that here? Come on. Where'd it go? Oh, the output. There we go. So the Tomcat log here says, oh, hey, something happened. We needed to go deploy Hello World here. So it live reloads it here, which is really cool. A while ago, and this is showing how old I am, we used to have to do all of this web XML stuff by hand, and then you have to start and stop your Tomcat server to make it pick up the change. Now it just knows that it can go reload, say, hey, something changed here. Let me go reload my Hello World project here, which is super cool. So we still see the index page, right? Nothing is new here yet because we haven't gone to /hello world. So we've gone to the first /hello world. This is the context for the project. Right, so the entire project is grouped together with /hello world. So if we go to XAMPP, we go find our Tomcat server. In web apps, I think is it in root? Is it in here? Where did they put it? No. It maybe didn't even put it out there. Is it in manager? Nope. I'm trying to remember where it put it. It's been a little while. Tomcat config Catalina. Let's take a look at this real quick and see if we can find it. Tomcat config Catalina localhost hello world.xml. There we go. And let's open this one up here. Probably didn't want to hit open. I probably wanted to do my other menu. Okay, VS Code's fine. This is quick enough. This will open it. Aha. So it's saying, hey, this is where all that code is. If you go to /hello world, please go here. So we don't even need to put any of our code directly into the Tomcat server right now. We can kind of work around it here. So this is not how you do it necessarily in production. Again, not too big of a deal. We're focused on the development side of things, not on administering a web server. Like if you actually wanted to package it up and put it onto a web server, we would put it in that web apps directory. We'd move everything into here, and then we could deploy it from here. But again, we don't need to, and that's fine. It's probably easier and faster in development mode. We can just hot reload and things in here. So it all just lives in our folder, which is really cool. So, but again, we're not to the servlet yet. All we are is the index page. So what we could do is we could add a link here. Could add a little anchor href and say, hey, you should really actually go to /hello world. I don't know, we'll say hello world. There's a link here and our anchor. Why not? Okay. So now we refresh our page. We get a link to hello world. Hello world will take us, oops, it's not /hello world. We want hello world that way, I think. There we go. So this will take us to hello world /hello world. And now we get the servlet hello world at /hello world. A lot of hello world in there. But right, we're getting the servlet hello world here. That's the name of the servlet. That's the name of our class. At request.getContextPath is saying inside of your project, your context is /hello world. Which is kind of fun. So now we found the servlet. Now, slash at the end here, there's nothing. There is nothing after this because it's not the servlet. Right? It's essentially trying to load an index page from here by default. So it's a little bit picky with the locations of things here. But it's okay. Another servlet. So we could make another servlet if we wanted from here. We'll go to our package here and we'll add a new servlet. And we'll call this one, I don't know, what do we want to do here? We'll just call it wow. Why not? Wow. And we'll add the mapping. So /wow, we'll use the wow servlet. So we'll go to our index page and we'll add another href for wow. Add the anchor. And then we need to redeploy this one. So anytime you're changing the servlet, you need to go rerun it because it has to compile code. Changing just a static HTML page, we could just refresh. That was fine. And now I go to wow. This is servlet wow at /hello world with our context. Hello world at /hello world is the context, right? This is the hello world context that we're going to here. Now, if I wanted to add links between those, we could do the same sort of href thing, but we'd have to echo it out. Right, so in either one of these, we could take one of these and add another out.println. Print line. And we want to print this whole thing here. Now remember, anytime you're printing a quote, it's going to end your string, so you can escape that here if you want. Add the link to wow on the hello world page, and on the wow page, we'll go add the link to hello world. So we have to manually add all these print lines here. Doing HTML in servlets is painful. Very painful, very tedious. And we change our servlets, we have to recompile and run. So rebuild, rerun, and we'll go and update it here for us. And now we get our index page with links to hello world and wow. Our hello world links to wow. Wow links to hello world. And we're happy. We can go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Super exciting. I guess not, maybe not super exciting, but sort of interesting, right? Okay, so then other things we can do with this request, right? We can go get a bunch of values out. So out.println. So we just want request.get request. Where is it here? Get parameter. That's what it is. you can get a parameter back out. Parameter for a given name. So you can say, okay, give me the parameter of first name. So whatever we get from first name, we can spit out, and we probably, again, want to put it in something like in the div here. We'll say first name. Oops, that's on the wrong side. We can append that in, and then we can append in ending the div. So this is on our wow servlet. Can go get the first name out if we wanted. So we'll give this a run here. So the wow servlet says first name is null. Right? There is no first name, but if we wanted, we could give it a parameter here. We'd say, hey, first name equals Eric. I think I misspelled. Did I misspell first name? First name, capital N. That's what it is. First, capital N name. There we go. And it is case sensitive, which sucks. Right? So first name with a capital N is different from first name with a lowercase n. But now we can see the first name here. So you can see, you can get out parameters here, or if you wanted to, you could be fun, you could get, it's, what is it, query, yeah, get the query string, no, query string, can get the entire query string here, which is everything in there. And so all the parameters smushed together, right, everything that we're sending, we can pass. So if we go to the wow servlet, put in, you know, test equals test, and hi equals Eric, and whatever other nonsense you want, you get the entire string back out. So again, usually going parameter by parameter is a little easier here, but if you want to get everything out, you can also get everything out of your servlets here. They're kind of fun. So then we can build forms. Now, building a form and having to output the form in a servlet is really annoying, as you can imagine. Right? Because printlining every line of a form is kind of annoying. So sometimes it's nice to have your index page where you can build a form and just point them to a particular servlet. So if we wanted to, we could have a form here then. Let me actually just go copy paste our form. Let's go to our GitHub repository. 454, 2022. We'll copy our form. And I don't know if we can take any of these really. Oh, how about the login page? Take the login page. That one had a form, didn't it? Oh, that one didn't. Where's our, oh, there's our view for login, right? That one had a form in it. I know it did. So in our form, instead of a link to wow, we can say, let's have the form action be wow, the wow servlet. And we'll post then a username and a password. Sure, we'll just say login. This is terrible here, but that's fine. We'll give this a run. So now we should have a form that takes us to the Hello World servlet. So we have test and password. When we log in, we go to the wow servlet. Query string's null though, right? Because we posted these parameters. So there's nothing in the query string, just in the post. So we need to go get parameters back out. Right, so this one's the query string. Let's do another for here are parameters. And then you can request.get parameters. You can get an individual parameter, you can get parameter names, you can get a map of parameters. So we get some cool options out here. So if we do get parameter names, right, this will give us a list of names. So what we really want to do then is we want to say for string parameter in request get parameter names. It's not, oh my goodness. Oh, Why didn't it? Wasn't it going to give me that? Parameter names dot. Oh, as iterator. Maybe it's as iterator. No. My goodness, what was it here? Get parameter names dot. Next, okay, so I guess we have to do this ourselves. That's really annoying. Maybe we can we do arrays dot as list? Do that one? Still no? Really? Okay, that's fine. Forget it. We'll do it the other way then. So we'll say I want my enumeration of type string. Hang on, sorry. Let's just go Google that. Java get parameter names loop. We'll go find a good example here. Sorry, my sugar's still a little high. Get parameter names. That's a weird for loop, but sure. We will copy paste this shamelessly. Sorry, taking a little more insulin here. All right. We'll steal this. Why not? And then we got a enumeration. Why does it not recognize that? Oh, what's it? We can import it, right? Add our import for java.util.enumeration. So our for loop here is really ugly looking, but it's okay. So it has, this is the initializer. This is the test here. So I think this is probably cleaner as a while loop. How about that? I should do this as a while loop, because that's really weird looking here. So we'll get the parameter names. We'll save it as this enumeration here. Enumeration. I like that better. Type it all out. And while it has more elements, we'll say, here's my parameter name equals that, and then we'll output the parameter name. Then what we can add to that here, so this is the parameter, and then what we want to do is we want to also add in the, like a colon plus our request dot get parameter. Right? Get dot get parameter. Get parameter given the parameter name. Then we can add the line break. So we can go out and get every parameter in the request. We don't even have to know what they are here. We can go get them all out. Let's give this one a shot. We log in, test and password. Log in, and now we see the query string is null, but the username is test and the password is password. So we don't need to know the parameter names to go and get. Now again, it's not going to be all that useful if you don't know what the parameters are, just to go out and like print them here. So, you know, getting all the parameter names is not super interesting, but it's interesting in that I can send this thing anything I want essentially here. Right, and now let's see, can we kind of confuse it here? Test is test. Right, we're sending that one here, and then if I want in my form, this is just nonsense here for fun. We can say, hey, go to hello world, test equals testing. So we'll send it a get parameter and post with the form here. Because why not be weird? And we'll see what it does here. test and password. Oh, I didn't do the, I didn't reload it. Test and password, didn't reload. Why did I add it? Uh-oh. Did I do it wrong? Oh, because I'm posting here, I think it's ignoring that. It doesn't let me be silly, sorry. That one gets ignored. But if we manually add it, it would add it for us here. Yeah, it's smart enough not to let us do that with a post. That's why. And test and password. And we go get those out. Just kind of fun. So there's a lot of things you can do in the code here now once we have that request object, which is kind of fun. And again, we're doing the same process, whether or not it is the, what happened here? I have two different sets of line numbers. That was weird. All right, whether or not we do the get or the post, we're going to run the same method, process request. It doesn't necessarily have to do that, but that's just, you know, kind of what is happening here. Okay, so why don't we pause for a little bit here. We'll come back. There's more things we want to look at with servlets. Other really cool things we can do, forwarding and redirecting, validating data. We'll kind of work our way through there and talk about a couple common gotchas as well, a couple things that cause issues as we go. And then the lab will be just setting up a basic, real basic servlet, making sure we can get our Tomcat server up and running, and that we can do something basic here. Just you know, put a little form in and get some requests out, some parameters out, okay? Because I'm pretty sure this weather's not going to stay. And it seems to always snow at least once in April. I've even had snow as late as my birthday once, which is, that was pretty crazy. All right, so let's go and figure out our servlets here. What do you think? We can get a post. Go parameters. Making sure we're not missing anything as we go. So get parameter will get you a single value. Get parameter values is how we would get, remember, like we have checkboxes or some sort of multi-select option here. We could get those out as well. So if we go back to our form, I'm going to add some checkboxes here. Right, let's just go copy paste here. Why not? Was it checkbox? I think it was called checkbox. Yeah. We'll mess with our checkboxes here. So let's find our inputs here. Go add those in here. So why not? Username and password and then pizza toppings, because why not, right? We'll do a similar idea here. So we're going to have this as a string for toppings. Is going to be my request.getParameterValues given the toppings parameter value. I can say for string topping, right, in toppings, we can do our out print line topping plus topping plus a line break. All right, so let's see if we can send some toppings through on our form here. There we go. So let's log in and have pepperoni, black olives, and mushrooms. Test and test. Uh-oh. All we got was pepperoni. Hang on. Let's see. We got the wrong. We only got the first one. What did we do wrong here? Is it toppings? We need to add in the square braces. So always just slightly different here between them. Okay. Can we take these ones out? I think we'll take these ones out actually. Let's try that way. So I think if we just change the form, I can go back to the form here. Below that one, test and test. There we go. Okay, so yeah, now we can get out the topping. Oh, that's weird. Some were capital and some were not. Oh, because the rest were in here. Yeah. Yeah, okay. The pepperoni and sausage. Did I mess some of these up? Did I miss some? I must have missed some here. Yep, I missed some here with the toppings there. There we go. Try one more time. See if we can't make sense of this. Test and test, and we'll do a couple of these options. Why not? There we go. So now we get our toppings out with the list here. So we're only getting one, right, when you're trying to get values, right, the parameter name, because we got parameter names. So getting parameter will only get you the first one. So you got to be a little bit careful with these here. I think it can work with the square braces too. Let's see if we can add the square braces back. So I think it can work this way. Let's double check and see if it works like that with our square braces. I want to make sure it works. Test and test. There we go. Yep. So if you give it the topping array notation, right, we'll get out all of them. Otherwise, it will only give you the first one of that name, which is, you know, just gotta be a little careful there. So, but we can still get them out. They work out pretty well. Works out nice. Dealing with files, you can do that. That's not quite as interesting. Now, setting attributes is kind of fun. So if you want to store some values for us to use, we can store particular values in our request, and then we can send that request places. So to set values, we would go and use the set attribute method. So maybe we had like a, let's do a class here. We probably don't need the whole class. We'll just play with one of them here. We'll say request.set attribute. We give it the name and then some sort of object here. So we'll say this is going to be testing is our attribute. Call it testing attribute. And then what value we want to put in here, we'll just put some attribute. We'll be able to go get this later once we've sent the request somewhere else. You can forward requests or you can redirect requests. So when you send a redirect, the browser is sending essentially another request back out. Kind of like when we would do a header, we would say, hey, go reload this page. So you can redirect and we'll go reload the page, versus a forward just says, oh, let me just go send it on to be processed over here. So we can do some forwarding if we wanted. Let's see, so if we wanted to where do we want to send it here? How about we go and forward it then from while. Let's do one more servlet here. So let's go to our package. Nope, I didn't want that. For our package, add a new servlet. And this one will be, I don't know, step 2. Yes, add our mapping here. And then sure, we'll just leave this one here, and then we'll add in, how about a out.println attribute. And now we want to get that attribute back out that we had set. So it's just request.getAttribute. Get attribute, and this was going to be our, let me say here, a testing attribute. So it's not the parameters, these are attributes that we can set inside of these. So if we wanted to go and now forward this request, from here, we're going to go say, let's take our, so you have to do, it's kind of this weird syntax here. So we're going to take a URL, and this will be where we're sending it to. So we're going to send it to, this is step 2. And then we're going to get the servlet context. And from the servlet context, we're going to get the request dispatcher given the URL here. Then we're going to forward the request and the response. Request and response. Yep, there we go. So from our servlet, we're going to get the request dispatcher. We're going to say, okay, we're going to dispatch you to this location, to step 2, and then we will forward the current request and response to there. So this will, from the same server request, send it out. So it's not redirecting you back, it's not headering you back, it's just going to send you on back here. So let's give this one a run. See if we can't go to WoW. Test and test, pick some toppings here. Into WoW. Oh, it didn't actually go and forward us here. Why didn't forward me? Thought I might forward more. Hang on. Didn't forward. Friends, it's not forwarding. Maybe I had the path wrong. Let's try world step 2. Let's try the full path in here. Test and test, pick some toppings. Oh, no, okay. Try to go to hello world step 2. So too far, too many hello worlds. So is it just slash step 2? Maybe it's just slash step 2. Getting closer. Test and pick some toppings. There we go. And now we have, it says we're at the WoW servlet, but what actually ran is the step 2 servlet here, and we can get out that some attribute. Now all the other stuff was blown away, right? We were putting stuff in this out here, the get writer, but once we got to step 2, we did a new out print writer here. So all this stuff got overwritten. So you have to be careful when you're redirecting. Anything that you put in here is going away, right? Because we did the redirecting here. Again, we'll make use of this. We're going to use servlets as our controller. And then once we get to writing Java server pages, we'll use those as the views. So we can do all the server stuff in a servlet, and then we can forward to the correct JSP, the Java server page, to be the view that we want. So we can keep that same model view controller sort of idea. We can write models, our classes. We can have the controller be our servlet, and then our views can be the JSPs that we write here. So it works out being nice and pretty. We haven't quite gotten there yet, the way we're kind of building this out. Yeah, and they show you some JSP validation stuff, which is silly because we haven't even got there yet. But validating pages is nice. The web XML is cool. Let's see. I think we're doing pretty well here. Okay, methods. Let's see. So one thing we have to be careful of in our servlets is that because these are web servers, right, they're designed to have lots of people connecting to them. And again, in development mode, it's only us, but the web server itself and the technology is made so that, hey, I can put a website out and hundreds or thousands or millions of people could be accessing my website. Right? So the server needs to be able to handle that. So when we're dealing with instance variables, they're considered not thread safe. So every time someone tries to connect to our server, a new thread is started behind the scenes. So the web server manages that. Everything runs on its own thread. So you have to be careful that the threads are not, or the servlets aren't thread safe the way that they're designed here. So we have to be careful when we use variables, in particular instance variables here, because they're not necessarily going to work the way that we expect. So if we add variables to our servlets here, they're not necessarily going to do what we'd expect them to do, because different connections can modify them at different points in time. So we don't just have one servlet that exists and that's managed by the web server. The way that they get created and behind the scenes makes that a little trickier here. And then the other thing we can do, which is kind of fun, but this is maybe a little silly here, but this is all showing stuff here. Now, running in debug mode is probably our easiest bet for doing things, but what we can also do is you can still use the system out print line. Test, test, test. And when this runs, it's actually going to print out to the console. Now, where that console is in Tomcat. So let's do test and test and send some of these in. Now, we don't see any of that, but if you go to the Output tab, you go to your Tomcat section, we have that output line, test, test, test. So you can use system out print lines if you really want to. Again, it's not considered all that good form here. But if you're having trouble with things, and you know, again, I would prefer debugging. You can put a breakpoint in, right? We can just put a breakpoint in here, and then we can run this in debug mode, and we can watch it stop when we get here and actually see what's happening with our variables. But you can put logging messages in here if you want to, in your Tomcat log there, which is nice. Thinking real hard about it here, sorry. Let's give it a minute. Close these ones down. Good. There it goes. Okay, still going. Working hard on it. Starting the browser. It's coming. There it goes. All right, so then ASDF, pick some of these. Now we hit our point. So here in NetBeans, now we see it's waiting at this location for us. And we can see the value of any of our variables here. So debugging, again, is probably your better bet here for doing anything that you want to do, but you can print line if you want. That'll definitely work out for you. Okay?